Welcome, fellow thrill seekers, to a mind-bending expedition that will leave you scratching your head. Prepare yourself for an extraordinary narration gimmick that I've been dying to try as we dive headfirst into the gripping tale of the haunted doll of the Rio Grande. Get cozy, sip your favorite potion, and brace yourselves for a bone-chilling adventure like no other. We'll unravel the spine-tingling mysteries of Santeria and witchcraft, encountering eerie visuals and unexplained phenomena that'll make your hair stand on end. So, gather round the virtual campfire, my friends, because we're about to embark on a pulse-pounding journey into the supernatural. Hold onto your hats and possibly a good luck charm, for a wickedly fun and chilling experience awaits. I was having a peaceful evening when I happened onto a post that sent me chills all the way down my spine. My interest was sparked by the title, which stated, "This was found in the Rio Grande River," so I clicked on it with some trepidation. A succession of weird pictures streamed onto the screen as the website loaded, with each one being more unsettling than the one that came before it. The first picture I saw was of the placid waters of the Rio Grande, which extended out before me in front of me. On the other hand, there was an odd object floating on the water's surface, and it was a wrapped-up bundle that gave off an eerie vibe. I was unable to pull my eyes away from the picture, which caused my heart to accelerate as I continued to gaze at it. My insatiable appetite for information pushed me to browse further down the page in search of the next picture. An unclaimed body was lying still on the riverside, and the sight of it sent shivers down my spine. It was a disturbing sight that made my blood run cold. The figure seemed dead and icy, which contributed to the creepy atmosphere of dread that was present in the scenario. But it was the third image that caused a catch in my throat and caused me to gasp for air. When I turned around, I saw a doll that was the size of a real being standing in front of me. Its face was frozen in a horrifyingly spooky look, and its limbs were distorted and crushed beyond recognition. It appeared as though time had not been kind to this doll, as it had the look of having deteriorated and was rather unnerving. When I looked at the doll in the fourth picture more closely, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about it. The complex elements of its appearance were depicted with spine-chilling precision in the artwork. From its human-like skin to its lifeless eyes, it seemed human in every way. The similarities were uncanny. I can't believe it's a toy since it seems so real. I hadn't even had time to collect my thoughts when I came to the last image, which was a scene of ruin. The flames consumed the doll completely, reducing its contorted form to ashes in the process. But as the fire danced around, I couldn't help but notice an unsettling visage that seemed nearly molded in the blaze. It seemed as though the flames themselves had taken on a sinister expression at that moment. I was taken aback by the photographs, and as a result, I was forced to investigate further into the tale that lay behind this eerie find. I reached out to the internet community in search of hypotheses and possible explanations in the hopes of shedding some light on the mystery that stood in front of me. A user who went by the handle Koba and emerged with a disturbing explanation for what had happened. Koba was under the impression that the doll was somehow associated with the occult practices of Santeria or witchcraft, and that it had the ability to operate as a vehicle for sinister rites. They hypothesized that it may be a voodoo doll, which would explain why it was used for evil. Nevertheless, Koba's theory presented more problems than it did solutions. It wasn't clear how large the doll actually was. Voodoo dolls were traditionally quite small in size and supposed to symbolize certain people. This doll, which was the size of a human, was an exception to the rule. As Koba hypothesized, the doll's presence in the river may be an indication that someone was attempting to rid themselves of an evil spirit by employing a cleaning ritual that involved water. I did a lot of research because I had a strong desire to find out the truth, and I was determined to find it. I was interested in gaining a greater understanding of the Santeria traditions, as well as the importance of such a doll. An intricate web of previously unknown facts started to take shape bit by bit. During the 16th century, Cuba was the birthplace of Santeria, which was also known at the time as Regla de Ocha. It did this by combining aspects of Catholicism with the spiritual traditions of Africa. Santeria was considered a type of witchcraft and was cloaked in a veil of secrecy at the time. It was also widely misunderstood and was frequently linked to illegal acts. It seemed fair to assume that the existence of the doll in the river was associated with these occult acts. I plunged deeper into the shadowy regions of Santeria and its rituals, fueled by the fresh information I had just acquired. However, while my investigation was able to throw some light on the surface, the more in-depth aspects of this occult practice remained obscure. It revealed that very little information was available on mysterious rituals and their link to such dolls. The online community became divided as my search for answers persisted, and I found myself caught in the middle of it. Some people who used the doll firmly thought that all they needed to do to rid it of its evil effects was to simply submerge it in water. They contended that the movement of the river would sweep away any negative energy that was clinging to the worn body of the doll. Others, on the other hand, did not think that this strategy was effective. They contended that the most conclusive way to solve the problem would be to fish the doll out of the river and then put it through the fire. They were under the impression that setting fire to the doll would completely destroy all remnants of evil, leaving behind nothing but ashes in its wake. These contrasting points of view have piqued my interest, and I found myself pondering whether the approach offers the most viable answer. Should one put their faith in the river's currents to wash the doll? Or should they hand it over to the depths of the river? Or should it be ripped from the hold of the water and hurled into the burning flames to ensure that its malevolent soul is extinguished for all time? Expanding my search was one of the things I did since I was dead set on discovering more proof and getting to the bottom of things. As the hours grew into days, I looked over the wide expanse of the internet, looking for any digital breadcrumbs left by this eerie doll. But as I dug more into the matter, I couldn't escape the sensation that something wasn't quite right. Something didn't add up. Strange happenings started taking place in my own life, as if the doll's evil influence had infiltrated into my reality and become a part of it. My house was filled with an unexplainable feeling of anxiety, and strange things started happening there, including doors opening on their own and furniture moving around. I was having a restless night and found myself standing at the doorway of my bedroom, peering into the pitch blackness that lay beyond. An eerie glow emerged from the nook, attracting my attention to a sight that sent shivers down my spine. On a chair in the far corner of the room was where the doll from the Rio Grande was sitting. My mind battled to make sense of this unexplainable occurrence, and as a result, my body was filled with a racing feeling of panic and uncertainty. How did that doll end up in my house in the first place? There was no way that I could have bought such a thing in my memory. When I learned that the tragedy that occurred in the Rio Grande was not only a myth or a faraway legend, fear began to seize hold of my heart. It had in some way poisoned the whole existence that I led. My movements were fueled by a surge of adrenaline, and I acted swiftly as I immediately seized the doll and wrapped it in fabric in an effort to urgently contain the doll's unnerving energy. But I couldn't stop thinking about the questions. How did it get here? Is there a connection between the doll and the photographs seen online, as well as the conversations about Santeria and witchcraft? And more importantly, what actions should I take at this point? I was terrified of the potential repercussions, so I made up my mind to share my terrifying experience with others and to recommend extreme caution to everyone who heard the story of the haunting doll in the Rio Grande. It became abundantly evident to me that this was not an isolated occurrence, but rather a malevolent force that had penetrated the lives of people who were unaware of its presence. I beg you to exercise extreme caution if you come across the eerie visuals or discover that the narrative of the doll in the Rio Grande draws you in. If this happens to you, the doll in the Rio Grande is no joke. The evil that emanates from the doll is limitless and has the potential to take form in ways that are incomprehensible to humans. Be aware of anything that seems out of the ordinary, such as unidentified things showing up in your house or a feeling that something terrible is about to happen that you just can't shake. So, what action should I take at this point? As I battle to come to grips with the existence of this ghostly doll in my own house, the answer to that question is one that weighs heavily on my mind. But one thing is certain. I have no choice but to take action in order to free myself from the corrupting effect of it. My strategy consists of two parts. To begin, I will seek the advice of occult specialists who are professionals in their fields, such as a spiritual medium or a practitioner who has prior experience resolving issues involving haunted items. Their wisdom and direction may provide a way for me to purge and expel this spooky presence from my life. Second, I will ensure the safety of both myself and my family by taking the appropriate preventative measures. There is a chance that purification rites, prayers, and talismans will provide some relief from the negative impact of the doll. I will erect a strong barrier of positive energy which will protect against any lingering presence that wants to hurt or manipulate. However, despite the fact that I am now formulating my strategy, I can't help but have a lingering sense of anxiety. How deeply have I allowed this doll to become a part of my life? Will my efforts be sufficient to expel it, or will its malevolent influence endure and continue to afflict anyone whom it comes into contact with? For the time being, the only thing I can do is confront this terrible truth head-on and hold on to the hope that I may solve the riddle of the haunted doll in the Rio Grande by summoning the bravery to do so, gaining knowledge about it, and receiving assistance from other people. I implore you, dear reader, to pay attention to my advice and to approach this story with extreme discretion.